To have you here today for a historic day, the groundbreaking ceremony for the Gary and Barbara Rodkin Academic Success Center. Now, at the risk of missing some folks, and that's probably, I'm going to do that, but I apologize in advance for that, but there are a couple people I want to mention who are here. Most importantly, Gary and Barbara Rodkin's mom and dad are here, Dennis and Anita. Dennis is a 1958 graduate of Rutgers University. We also have Gary's brother Bob here, who's a 1980 graduate of Rutgers University. We've got, I saw Paul Natoli. Paul's here. Paul, very important, right? Paul is Natoli Construction. He's going to build this thing. So Paul's very important. Our architects from Ewing Cole, Bill McCullough, Ashley Mazziata, and Brett Spearman are all here. All right. Folks from our facilities who just get stuff done. Nick Fabroni and Georgia Kirfides are here. And as you can see, we have many of our coaches, our student athletes, our academic advisors, all of the folks who are going to benefit from this building. We also have not just Gary and Barbara, but many other folks who have made significant commitments to this building. So please join me in welcoming all of those folks. Today you will hear from Dr. Robert Barchi, our president, our Chancellor Chris Molloy, our faculty athletics representative Tom Stevens, and one of our student athletes who plays on our women's soccer team, which will be housed in this new facility, Dana Goldstein. And of course you're going to hear from Gary and Barbara. First, allow me to say a few words about Gary and Barbara, how this project came about, and what it's going to mean for our student athletes. Gary graduated Rutgers College in 1974, and Barbara is a 1976 graduate of Douglas College. They actually met with many of our student athletes this morning. It was a great gathering. We talked about what's inspired them, their path, and one of the stories that Barb told was the meeting of Gary and Barbara. So Gary's a few years ahead of Barbara in college here, and I guess he thought that time was running out for having student tickets to the basketball games at the barn. So he started scoping out in the library, and he found this sophomore named Barb, and she could get what was called a date ticket, right, Barb? So that's worked out pretty well for them. Maybe we'll have some other things happen in the future. Our basketball program is obviously doing very, very well. So after graduation, Gary went on to a long and successful career in business. He began his career at General Mills and quickly climbed the corporate ladder. President of Tropicana, chairman and CEO of PepsiCo Beverages and Foods North America, and then CEO of ConAgra Foods until his retirement in 2015. Gary and Barbara have a long history of giving back to Rutgers, supporting many academic initiatives across our university, including the Rodkin Weintraub Chair in Engineering, the Rodkin International Scholars Fund, the Rodkin Science Scholars Fund, the program fund support for Douglas residential college students at the Honors College, the Rodkin Family Endowed LGBTQ Emergency Assistance Fund, and the Center for Social Justice and LGBT Communities Excellence Fund, just to name a few of the things that they have done. They have been remarkably generous. And then on a hot August day in 2017, after the opening of the Marco Battaglia Practice Complex, Gary came down here to see a training camp day, and we were walking around, and we actually climbed to the top of that video tower that you can see right there. And we were up at the top, and Gary shared with me that he and Barbara were considering making a very significant gift to Rutgers University, and that they were hoping to combine their passion for athletics and academics. And as we stood up there, it was my opportunity to talk a little bit about our challenge in terms of our academic services and the lack of an academic center. And we literally looked down at this site, and I said, there's a really great place to have an academic center. It would not only be very close to where a lot of our students athletes are, but it's going to be a very, very visible project. And sort of immediately was interested, went home and talked to Barb, and we started working together. We started gathering a lot of information about other facilities of this type around the Big Ten. We visited several of them. We were out in Nebraska together, and we really started to bring in the very best in thinking about how do you create an academic services area, a complex that will serve all of our student athletes very well. And then it came down to sitting down around your kitchen table one day, and we had gotten the sort of advice that maybe if you brought a couple of teams into this building as well, and we bring some administration into this building, we'll create sort of this critical mass of folks in this building to make this hub really, really work and be a building of constant activity. And that was really the first time you had seen that plan, and so we expected that it would take a little bit of time, and Gary looked across the table at Barbara and said, "So what do you think?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, "Yes, we like the concept." She goes, "No, yes, we're doing this." And that was literally the moment, very, very special moment in their home. And again, Gary, Barbara, thank you very much. Now let me tell you a little bit about this building. Quite simply, it will be best in class. It will be a destination and gathering place for our students. It's going to be the hub of their academic activities. And we talked about this a little bit with our students this morning. It's going to incorporate what's called a cafe to cave concept. Now some of you may have heard that, but what it does is it brings the very best in thinking about how students learn today. We don't all learn the same in the same environments. So the cafe part of it, as you come into the first floor of the building, there'll be very comfortable seating areas, sort of think Starbucks. Lots of couches, there'll be 2 fireplaces for students to gather around on a cold winter's day. A place that really draws students in, but where you can get work done, right? You'll have your laptop, you'll be sitting around. And as you migrate up into the building, it will get quieter and quieter. You'll have some group spaces, you'll have seminar rooms, classrooms, you'll have quiet study areas, sort of those quiet pod areas where if you are a learner like me where you don't like to have any distractions, that's going to be the place that you can do it. But it will get better, right? It's also going to house, I should tell you, it's going to have 12 tutoring rooms, 8 offices for our academic advisors. We talked about the computer lab, the classrooms, and really importantly, and this is something that, again, we worked through, all of those areas will have natural light. They will all be on windows, so our students will not be sort of stuck over in a dark place. You're looking at 4 walls. And there's a lot of thinking about that, a lot of research about the importance of that in terms of our ability to learn. But then on nice days like this day, this building will have 3 terrace areas, very large terrace areas where our student athletes can hang out, get ready for exams, and it'll be very, very special. It's also, as you know, it's going to provide a home for our soccer and lacrosse programs. We'll have state-of-the-art locker rooms, a strength and conditioning area, hydrotherapy area, offices for our coaches, a film room for our coaches. And it's also going to house athletic administration, which will be the first time ever that athletic administration will all be under one roof. As I said, this location was chosen for a very specific reason. As I said, over half of our students will be able to come here just by walking after practice. They can walk to the facility. And then the folks on the other campuses will have a shuttle system that will make sure that this truly is their hub. But we also picked this site for another reason, right? That's our football stadium. And on game day, as the folks come and they come to attend our football games or our lacrosse games, we want them to see that at Rutgers University, our commitment to academics is first. All right, they will see the Gary and Barbara Rodkin. They'll see it right here. And this is where the building, for those of you who don't know, the building is going up right here. All All right, that black fence will essentially be the facade of the Gary and Barbara Rodkin Academic Success Center. So it will stare right across this Athletes Glen, out at the stadium, over at our football practice fields. And so everybody who arrives on game day are going to see this is the emphasis we place on academics. What will it mean for our student athletes? So any of our student athletes who've been in the RAC, you'll know the place that I'm talking about right now. There is a small little table. I see Miles Johnson, one of our basketball, and Joey Downs from our basketball team. When you go out the second floor, there's a hallway, and there's a little bit of academic space there. But in the hallway, there's a little table. It's about a 2 foot by 4 foot table, and it's got 2 small little chairs next to it. I see some of our guys are nodding their heads. They currently get tutoring at that table in a hallway. Right? Now picture Miles Johnson's a little bit tall over there, right? So put Miles down in that little chair, sitting at that little table, all right, getting some academic help. It looks like he's in a kindergarten seat there, right? Sorry, Miles. And he's engineering, so he's got to he's got to work hard. All right, so when I would walk by that for the first couple of years that I was here, I'd walk by that and I'd say, we have to do better. Now I walk by that seat, and I walk by that little table, and we're going to preserve that somewhere, and I say, thank you, Gary and Barbara Rodkin, all right, because that's going to change. It's now my pleasure to introduce Rutgers' 20th president, Bob Barchi. Under Bob's leadership, Rutgers is undergoing a remarkable transformation. He's overseen the largest merger in the history of higher education, the creation of RBHS. He completed the first $1 billion campaign and overseen $2 billion in new construction and counting. Now, yesterday, fittingly, Bob oversaw the dedication of the Paul Robeson Plaza, commemorating the 100th anniversary of Paul Robeson's graduation. And as I listened to the speeches and to Bob's remarks, I thought about Paul Robeson's legacy. And I thought that he epitomizes what we hope for with the Gary and Barbara Rodkin Academic Success Center. He was a 2-time All-American, 15-time letter winner, and valedictorian of his class. Wouldn't it be great if someday the next Paul Robeson walked out of the Gary and Barbara Rodkin Academic Success Center? And by the way, Bob Barchi was also a student athlete, so maybe this center will produce the next Bob Barchi. Please welcome our president, Robert Barchi.
Well, thanks, Pat. You don't leave much for the president to say after that introduction. And I use strained credibility with student athlete. When I played, I just had my 50th anniversary reunion at Georgetown, and where I played football and lacrosse, and believe me, we couldn't carry the water buckets for this place. So, but we did have a lot of fun. So, but I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here and to help celebrate the groundbreaking for this Barbara and Gary Rodkin Center for Academic Success. Pat did mention that we had the dedication of the Robeson Plaza yesterday, and all the amazing things that Paul Robeson did. We should keep in mind the fact that there are things that Paul Robeson was not allowed to do at this university that I think are changing, have changed, and still continue to need to be changed. And we all recall the fact that Robeson was benched for a football game by the administration because the opposing team would not go on the field with a team that had an African American player. Now, times have changed, but they haven't changed enough, and we still have a lot of work to do. And I think that bringing our athletes together in a center like this is an important part of that process. You've heard something about the numbers, 80,000 square feet, about $65 million worth of construction costs. The timeline for completion is very aggressive. We're talking about the fall of 2020, which would be really, really fast to get this building open. Pat's right, this will push us closer to the $3 billion mark in terms of total construction here at our Rutgers campuses in the past 7 years. But you know, we've talked much more about getting away from inputs and looking at outputs. When we talk about Rutgers We're delighted that our SAT scores for our incoming kids has moved from 1,205 and 7 years ago to 1,300 now, which is right there with our peer, aspirational peers in the Big Ten and the AAU. And I think it's an amazing accomplishment for our faculty and administration. And we look at where they go afterwards. Well, the same thing with athletics. We're very, very concerned about recruiting the best athletes to Rutgers, but we're also very concerned about what happens to those athletes when they finish their time here. So one of the questions that I ask is, what's the impact of these programs? And it's a question that I get asked all the time as the president. Why are you spending all this money on big time athletics, or what does it do for Rutgers? Well, I can tell you what it does for Rutgers. I mean, if you look at the highest level, the impact of D1 athletics and our successful competition on building spirit, on unifying our alumni and our students and our faculty and staff, and in projecting a national presence is immeasurable. And lest we lose sight of the fact, let me just run down what's happened this year. 2 national champs in wrestling, 2 of them in the same year. Women's basketball in the NCAA. Women's field hockey finishing 11th in the nation. Men's lacrosse currently in the top 20. Women's rowing breaking into the top 20. Women's soccer up and down in the last couple of years, but typically in that top 20 slot. The fact of the matter is that we are competitive and getting more competitive every day. And I'm just delighted to see the recent Ken Palm ratings that came out. I know I talked to our coach, Steve Pipe, a little while ago, to see Rutgers jump in that national rating of all D1 universities by 70 slots in 1 year. 70 slots. And I go to a lot of basketball games, and I have to tell you, I saw a lot of games this year, 3 or 4 games against nationally ranked competition that we lost by a single basket. 2 years ago, we would have lost those games by 30 points on a good day. Next year we're winning them, right? My God. But I'm looking beyond just the impact of the success of our programs. The impact of the programs is also on our student athletes. Obviously giving them a chance to succeed at the highest level in their sports, but also preparing them to succeed in their own careers as they go forward. And if you talk about impact, you have to talk about the impact of a gift. And this particular gift by the Rodkins has that kind of impact. It has leverage. We are in a position in athletics where what we do in the Big Ten build has to be built on philanthropy. We know that. We know where we are from a financial point of view. And Pat and his team have done a remarkable job of leveraging that message. But it's people like Barbara and Gary who can come to the fore and say, we're doing this, you join us, that make it possible to start a structure like this that we might not have gotten to for 3, 4, 5 years. Who knows how long that would have been. It certainly helps our soccer and lacrosse programs, which are poised at that national ranking and are in a very rich recruiting environment by giving them a better opportunity, a better bite at the apple for their recruitment programs. And it certainly helps those athletes by giving them the best in training facilities and the best in conditioning facilities. But I think it most importantly benefits all the athletes that you see here and all 700 of our athletes by providing them with world-class academic facilities for them to succeed. Why? That is something that I tell our athletes when I have a chance to talk to them. They're doing a great job here on the field. I know that they're competing at the national level, at the very highest level, but we all know that 95% of them will not play professional sports, and that 95% of those who do won't be playing 5 years after they start. So what they get from Rutgers that is every bit as valuable as the opportunity to play at that top level, at that highest echelon, is a Rutgers degree. It's the ability to move beyond college, move beyond athletics to a lifetime career. The ability to move with the market, the ability to be value added to a business or an enterprise or a public service or the government or wherever they choose to go. That's the value of a Rutgers degree, and that's what happens front and center in this new facility. And I must say, I know Barbara is deeply committed to academics as much as Gary is to athletics, and the combination of the two, if you look at their philanthropy, focused almost entirely on student success, almost entirely on scholarship, honors college, all the various scholarships that you just heard about from Pat. And this, to me, is sort of the crowning focus on melding those two together. Let's keep in mind that what we do here in athletics is not just about student athletics. It's about student success. It's about student academic and leadership success as much as it is success on the classroom. And I must say, I'm not going to go through that whole list again because Pat's already done it for me, but I have to tell you that I'm proud of our athletes, and I call them our student athletes, not our athlete students, and make sure that we have the priority right. And when you look at the complex that we're building here and realize that not too many years ago, and Pat and I well remember, most of this wasn't here. And if you think down the line with the stadium and the practice facility, the soccer field, and this particular academic success facility in the center of it all, where it should be. And what Pat was saying about what you see when you come to Rutgers, that's very real. You come here to watch a soccer game or a lacrosse game or a football game, right smack in your face is going to be a statement about how we feel about the academic success and the professional success of our students. So I am just delighted to be here. I'm very proud to be friends of the Rodkins and to share with them and their parents this wonderful day, moving us along. And I tell you, I'm really looking forward to seeing this building completed on time and on budget next fall. Right, Pat? Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Christopher Molloy was appointed Chancellor on February 6, 2019, after serving as interim in since July of 2018. Previous to that, he served 5 years as Rutgers Vice President for Research and Economic Development. He served with distinction as the Dean of the Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, Interim Provost for Biomedical and Health Sciences during the integration of the UMDNJ into Rutgers, and Interim Chancellor of Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences. He has been part of the university community since his days as a pharmacy student here in the 70s and holds undergraduate and professional degrees from Rutgers. But maybe more important than all of that is that he is the grandson of the legendary Seton Hall basketball coach, Honey Russell. And you go back and you look at his record. Now, they say that that runs in the blood, right? Coaching bloodlines. Today we talk about DNA. Well, there's another reason why Steve Peichel is here is because right now he's searching for a top assistant. And we believe you could be the first Chancellor assistant coach in athletic history. Please welcome our Chancellor, Chris Molloy.
Thank you, Pat. Actually, that was an unexpected introduction, and I think after some of the days I have at work, I would accept that job in a heartbeat. As the Chancellor of New Brunswick, and I thank President Barchi for nominating me and putting me in that position, my main job is really the academics of this great university. And it's no big secret to anybody here that we have outstanding student athletes at Rutgers. And they're all around us right here today, this morning. During the fall of 2018, our student athletes posted all-time high marks in the classroom. Our Scarlet Knights combined to earn 3.12 cumulative grade point average and a 3.1 GPA, and 216 were on the Dean's List. It's a very significant number. Furthermore, in the Big Ten, they rank our students, and 85 of the fall Scarlet Knights were all Big Ten academic scholars, a school record eclipsing 84 from 2015. And again, I think that's really good. But now, through the incredible generosity, Gary, of you and Barbara, we have the ability to build on this strength and help Rutgers further transform the student experience by supporting academic achievement of Rutgers' 700 student athletes, providing academic support services including tutoring, learning specialists, and seminars and workshops, creating space for team study halls that we've heard about, computer labs, peer-to-peer learning right in the middle of where academics takes place at this university, including a strength and conditioning area for on-site training and development, and ensuring dedicated training and equipment spaces for each program housed in the facility. I like saying